Welcome to You Know What Grinds My Gears, episode number 2. I'm coming after you, Boondock Ballistician. We're going to do a little East Coast, West Coast battle here. I'm so friggin' sick of people buying their gimmick rounds that have no idea about ballistics. Not her. She's an actual ballistician. I'm not. That's not what I do. I'm armed security. However, I know some things. I study some things. I actually talk to subject matter experts on a fairly regular basis. I talk to two of the most well-known, well-respected subject matter experts as far as handgun terminal ballistics. However, these screwdriver bullets, holy fucking people are fucking idiots online. So just do as good, especially in clear ballistics bullshit that like a toddler could tear apart because it's so easily torn, and they're like, it's just as good, and they don't even understand clear synthetic versus organic and whatever. Now she shot an organic, it looks the same. We'll get to looks the same in a minute. Looks similar in a minute. Screwdriver bullets are fucking 98.7% snake oil. They're almost completely snake oil. They're barely better than FMJ, and only in like subcalibers, like 32 auto and under, would I even consider it. 380, you could have made that argument a few years ago, and even now then there's 3, 4, 5 better jacketed hollow points you could pick, even in 380, okay? I won't hate on you if you carry a screwdriver piece of shit Phillips screwdriver bullet in 380 or under, but if you do a 940-45 duty caliber size and you think that's better, and yet almost no police departments, other than tiny little department that got free ammo to advertise for certain of these companies, any major law enforcement department that actually studies their OIS officer involved shootings to understand that screwdriver bullets are completely bullshit. If they weren't bullshit, they would be using them. You know who else would be using them? Every country that signed the Hague Convention. Every country around the world, if they were so magical that signed that, they're new. No, they're friggin' not. The patent goes back to like World War I, and then the modern day patent goes back, I don't know, probably 50 years now, 40 to 50 years now. From the devil owner that was probably killed by one of our 3-letter agencies. F's with me all the time. He was probably killed by one of our letter, so they could then, use the patent and whatever, and then they used it and they're like, oh shit, it doesn't do shit. We would have known. You think fucking loudmouth military fucking and SF people that fucking spew shit and write books wouldn't say shit about these for the 50 fucking years? The only people real world, the argument will be that when 4 tier 1 guys enter a door with subsonic 300 blackout, they all pop, double tap, perfectly on the guy's spine and heart. 8 shots simultaneously hit a tango, and then they worked really good. Well, fucking anything would work. Okay, 22 long rifle would have worked when you hit the spine and heart 8 times simultaneously. Okay. That's the only argument of real-world use of screwdriver bullets. If they really, really worked, they'd really, really work in the future with hypersonic bolt guns at over 10,000 feet per second. To actually work with fluid redirection hydrodynamics to tear that tissue, well, you have to get the depth of the upper thoracic cavity. You got to get to the depth of where you think that magical damage is going to happen. Okay, so your little 380 does 150 football. Oh, you plus P plus. Shut the F up. You suck, and that means you can't shoot it because it has higher recoil. Okay, shut up. 150 to 400 foot-pounds of energy with your little pistol. Pistols fucking suck. It pokes a little hole with a little fucking rock because it can throw a little fucking rock faster than you can throw a rock. That's pistol terminal ballistics. Now, the bigger the fucking rock, the bigger the wound cavity. How much bigger? Well, a lot bigger because it's volume of a cylinder, its radius squared through the entire wound path. That's why you want an expanding hollow point. Number one, it might lick that vital structure, like nick the aorta, nick the spine, etc. But the total size of that diameter times its hydraulic, its fluid dynamics ratio McPherson times 0.82 through the entire wound path. So that 9mm hollow point, HST, going to like 63, expanded caliber, okay, times 82, radius squared though. So it's half, it's the radius, it's squared through the entire wound path. Well, the little pinky versus the thumb, the now expanded thumb going through, well, it looks the same in gel. Screwdriver bullets may do more damage than FMJ. Why would they do more damage than FMJ? It has nothing to do about redirecting fluid. They're moving too slow. Okay. I understand there's some physics principles there, but the energy level, the velocity is too slow. If it was that much more amazing, we would use them in rifle bullets and something that might yaw and fragment and actually tear the tissue as it's going through sideways and make a larger permanent wound cavity, because the temporary stretch cavity is over the threshold of all the organs in the body, about 2,600 feet per second, down to 22 different organs. There's only a few that will explode, like the brain and the liver and the spleen. Okay, but mostly you need that 22 to 2,600 feet per second at the depth where it's actually doing damage. So let's go talk about the pistol ballistics again. So, okay, let's say we're going at 1,000 feet per second between a 380 and a 9mm. Okay, well, I'm going to use my little screwdriver bolt because it's lighter grain. That means it loses momentum faster. Oh my God, it's just going to destroy the epidermis? That does nothing? It takes about 3 inches of gel penetration, 3.4 inches to actually be like going through the skin. Okay, so when you go to E15, oh, you don't know what that is? Well, someone like me doesn't know what that is. If you go to E15, you go to 5.15 centimeters or 5.9 inches in the body. With almost every bullet I've seen in actual studies in all different calibers loses just over half its muzzle energy by E15. By 5.9 inches, it's already lost half its muzzle energy. So your real lightweight is even faster because of momentum, how it works. So it's lost even more by 5.9 inches. Well, the heart is 7.9 inches at angles, average angles. That was FBI wound ballistics study in the 80s when, yes, Americans were way, way, way less obese. So how does the screwdriver do more damage than FMJ? Well, the ridges might contact a little more tissue because FMJ sucks, especially like 9-380, 45. The ogive's not as big, the angle, so it actually contacts a little bit more. But 9-380, let's call it a 355 diameter bullet, it's just flowing over. The tip is what touches and everything else flows over. Well, those ridges might contact a little more tissue. Okay, so let's give it a plus 1 percentile. Any more damage it might do, and it might do better in the lower powered calibers. The hydraulic thing would work at a very high velocity, but it might actually do more damage at the lower power calibers because it's more likely to tumble in the thoracic cavity distance that you want a non-expanding bullet to add tumble damage. Now, tumble damage is not the same. It's not through the entire wound path like an expanded hollow point is after the first neck or 1 inch to expansion of a jacketed hollow point. So with that short neck, nice hollow point, 1 to 1.5 inches, it's fully expanded, good ones. Boom, nice short neck, boom. Now that bigger diameter is through the entire wound path. Remember, it's radius squared. So the screwdriver maybe only does a little bit more damage if it happens to initiate its tumble earlier than FMJ might tumble. 9mm FMJ is probably exiting before the tumble really starts. Like, it might start tumbling and tear out the back, your exit wound, but that wasn't at the depth where you needed it to rip through the lung and the heart, okay, or, hit the spine because the bullet's now longer lengthwise than the frontal diameter. Whereas like a 32 or 380 might tumble sooner. FMJ sometimes, but not always, is not very reliable at the depths that you actually want the tumble to happen in the upper thoracic cavity. The screwdriver bullets on the lower powered, because the weight is towards the back, because the weight of the front of the nose has been machined out in copper or whatever, the weight is at the back. So now as it's going through with a little bit of twist, let's not talk about the magical twist rate, 1 in 10 inches or 1 in 12 inches. We're only penetrating 10 to 12 inches probably before it exits, or at most with the small caliber. So There's the whole. It's not a propeller. People are commenting. It's like a propeller going through, man. It just shoves. It just rips and tears and shoves the water at such a high velocity out of the way. Fuck no. It's 1 in 10 inches or 1 in 12 inches or whatever. Okay, like a pistol twist rate. Okay. Any extra damage is only from maybe more reliable tumbling than FMJ in certain lower powered calibers. To actually do stuff from the hydraulic fluid redirection, you'd have to be at a much higher velocity. And if you're going to be at that much higher velocity in a rifle territory, you're going to do way more damage with something that yaws and is now sideways and fragments like a 193-556. That's going to do way more damage than the extra little pushing of a flute hydrodynamic redirecting up the flute, which it really, it does a little bit, but that's in gel to look similar. If a gel shot of a screwdriver looks the same as a hollow point, it doesn't matter because that's not what gel is for. It's not the same thing. It's not living tissue. Okay? We're just using a medium to get penetration depth and expansion ratios similar to muscle tissue. That's it. Okay? So just because it looks the same in non-living tissue, meaning the hollow point expands and now it's mostly touching that tissue at 82%. It's mostly touching with the frontal diameter that tissue all the way through the wound path. Okay, so we'll use my thumb and pinky analogy again. So boom, we expand to a thumb. It's more like the middle finger, but here, to a thumb. So you get this through the entire wound path times 0.82 because, it's not uniformly fully expanded. So you get a min and a max average, and it's through there, and it's touching, but it's physically touching most of the tissue. The screwdriver bullets look the same, especially in synthetic, easily ripped stuff, or even an organic gel block that weighs, 10 to 17 pounds, not 250 something plus pounds like my fat face right now. Okay. So just because it pushes, maybe some of the actual hydraulic happens in the gel because actually synthetic gel doesn't have water. That's why it sucks and it's not organic gel. And it doesn't really friggin' matter because there's no water to compress, but it tears so easily, the synthetic stuff, the clear ballistic stuff, that it doesn't matter and it's just torn. Organic, it has some water, so it actually, and it pushes it aside. Well, guess what real living tissue does? It rebounds in microseconds. It rebounds instantly and holes seal as the bullets come through. It goes whoop, whoop. It's faster than those slow motion videos. Oh my God, look at all that damage and all the friggin' ballistics videos on YouTube that they don't understand anything. They don't read any scientific papers. They have no idea what they're talking about. The tissue rebounds instantly. Those little flutes, yes, it might trick you. It's snake oil in gel. It's snake oil. Let me repeat this. It is snake oil in gel. It shoves the gel out of the way. Living tissue rebounds right away because they're made mostly of water. It goes slosh, boom, and it's back in under a second. In literal microseconds, it goes whip, whip. So that wound path isn't bigger like it looks in gel. It reseals. It's small. Guess what? It's the diameter, just like FMJ. It's the diameter of the effing bullet. So do I want a 355 going into you, or do I want a 68 HST going through you? Remember, it's volume of a cylinder. So it's the radius squared. It's not, well, it's just a little bit bigger. I can't tell by the eyeball. The surgeon can't tell by the eyeball. You mean at a cross section? The surgeon can't tell by an eyeball to the huge body, the difference between a pinky and a middle finger in one spot on a huge fat body in comparison? No, but it's through the wound path volume of a cylinder. It's the radius squared for tissue crush or total wound volume. The hollow point is going to do way more damage. How much more damage? About 8 times more damage than an FMJ or a screwdriver will. The screwdriver might go to twice the FMJ if you're lucky and the tumble happens where it needs to happen, but that's not through the entire wound path. That's just a little, and you can't really measure it because a little more tumble here, a little more tumble there. Maybe you get one full 180 yaw if you're lucky, and then it's a little bit bigger because then it's like a wad cutter on the back. Maybe. But that's in the subcalibers. So anyone that would pick a screwdriver and a 9mm and up instead of what? I don't know. Every police agency in America uses for good reason because they actually see it work and real. Every officer involved shooting is investigated. All murders are investigated, meaning there are autopsies. They correlate that to organic gel. This started a long time ago, and they correlate what does this is kind of the average of what does this. The average is more variable in the real world because we're heterogeneous, not homogeneous, but 10% organic ballistics gel for handgun terminal ballistics is what we see in the real world. If it works good in 4-layer heavy clothing, organic gel, it works good real world. This has been studied for a very long time, going back to like 87, 88. So it's been a long time. That's a whole lot of shootings that have been investigated. Hollow points friggin' work. You pick a hollow point that one of your law enforcement agencies is using. You got an HST or a gold dot or something fairly similar, maybe a lower price like punch. You got something good that's going to expand and do the damage. So anyone that does pick a screwdriver that got sold on snake oil, sorry, you were a fucking idiot. If you want to keep it as your backup mag, if you actually carry one in your car mag, you rock on, dude. That's where you put the shitty expensive ammo you bought. Okay? It's copper. It's harder. It might do a little better going through windshield on some outlier movie thing you have in your head. Use a hollow point, especially if it's 9mm. If you want to do it under 380, even in 380, I think are pretty stupid. At least longer 380s, like I might carry in the summer, and I haven't really done it, but I've talked about it with Punch or XTP or Covert X or Hydroshock Deep. I look at we discussed this a lot. It was a question HR Funk I was on. So was another well-known guy on HR Funk's live stream the other day, and it was a specific question about 380 and under. 32 ACP if you want to, because the other option is probably, even though it's highly controversial and won't necessarily look great in the investigation, alternating Hydroshock Deep and flat point FMJ, a flat point FMJ in 32 kind of makes sense. But in 380, you got Hydroshock Deep. You have XTP, you have Covert X, you got Ultimate Defense Compact Handgun. That's maybe on the shallower side of penetration, but there's options that are going to work, and it's through the entire wound path. More likely to nick a vital structure, that's most importantly, but your total wound volume, because it's radius squared, is way, way higher. Your total wound volume, your tissue crush is way higher, meaning they bleed a lot faster because, again, remember, it rebounds and it seals, but that actually touched the tissue, so it did actually tear it, so you're actually bleeding, but the body's pretty good at, like, doing that, right? So you need to tear as much as you can so they lose diastolic pressure loss, so they're less good at trying to shoot you and stab you quicker. That's what handguns are, poking holes. Hopefully you poke them in the right spots. A T-box, a spine, a heart. And even a heart is 8 to 15 seconds until they lose enough BP to stop being a deadly threat based on a whole bunch of factors. Okay? Screwdrivers are bullshit. If they weren't bullshit, we would have been using them for fucking the 1900s, and every country military around the world that signed the Hague Convention saying they couldn't use expanding bullets or dum-dum bullets. Okay? So, our military, by the way, yes, our military never signed it was the Hague Convention, so all you people in the comments that constantly talk out of your asses, we never signed it, and we do use hollow points in the war on terror. Oh, because they're not a uniform, we decided quite a while ago, Jag decided a while ago, we can use, it was originally a 147 Winchester. I'm hearing that maybe it's a G2 Spear, but it was originally a Winchester M1153. Okay. So like our military is smoke tallies because they're tallies and they're not an organized military all wearing the same uniform, and it's a war on terror anyway, so fuck them, shoot them with hollow points in the face a lot, because that's what you need to do with a pistol, because pistols are not rifles or shotguns. And you know what isn't a rifle or a shotgun? Your little 32 or 380 with a screwdriver doesn't fucking make it a 44 Magnum. It definitely doesn't make it a 45 HST expanded that's going to crush like a billion times more tissue crush through the wound path than your itty bitty. But oh my God, it's spinning so fast in the twist rate. You mean the one revolution, the one twist in the body? God, people are stupid and not Boondock Ballistician. Okay, I know. I talked to, like, Study McPherson, and Schwartz thinks there might be something there, and I understand if the force is great enough, but I'm telling you, in handgun pistols, it's not enough velocity. Now, if there's some super hot-rodded 9x23 going even to 2,200 feet per second, because again, remember, so by 5.9 inches has lost half of momentum, so all that magical tissue tearing, temporary wound cavity, actually tearing the tissue that people are like, I use civil defense. Your 50 grain round after it made it through the epidermis is fucking not at 2,200 feet per second, people. Before it could actually damage any of the, the organs and stuff that's deeper, before it even gets close to that, it's at like 1,600. And by the time it gets to like heart depth, you're at under half. You're at like 980 feet per second. And it's less grain weight. And it's lost the momentum. So like the tissue damage at that point is like really very minimal. So that's what grinds my gears. Boondock Ballistician, what do you think? We can go East Coast, West Coast. Is there some actual science behind it, maybe possibly working at rifle velocities? Yes. More like bolt gun velocities, electromagnetic. We're going way, Then yeah, but you know what works even better? When that rifle bullet goes, it yaws, and it goes, and a fucking temporary cavity. And now that whole area, all that temporary stretch was a high enough velocity to overcome elastic threshold of the tissues, and everything there is torn, and now it's a huge wound. So there's no point, because at pistol velocity doesn't do shit, and at rifle velocity, something that yaws and fragments is going to do more damage. So screwdrivers are bullshit. Stop buying that shit. Buy a good hollow point. I don't know. Do what the law enforcement does, because they actually shoot bad guys. And then there's actual autopsies of the bad guys. Then they know, hey, this worked in our gel and it worked in this. The screwdrivers are just a magic trick in the gel, because it does push the easily torn, less mass gel, because you're not using 250-pound gel blocks, out of the way. Okay? You're just moving it, and then, oh my God, it looks the same. Looks the same doesn't matter. The hollow point that expanded, most of it is actually touching, meaning tearing and crushing that tissue. It's not pushing it out of the way that would rebound in microseconds. So screwdrivers are bullshit. Hate me below. I don't care. You don't know what you're talking about. I do. Ballistician, you can fight with me if you want on this one. I think you're mostly wrong on this one. And most civilians are not going to be shooting bad guys through barriers first. Most of the time, they're not law enforcement. And if even law enforcement is still using a top hollow point like a gold dot or an HST or maybe critical duty, then maybe that's a sign. Look at my ballistics test in my videos, and you might go, well, that doesn't correlate. Look at the pinned comments. I tend to correlate directly to the data I get directly from federal, old data from Winchester, and old data I have from the FBI. Thanks. Take care. Kaboom.